Okay, so this was from last time. This was an example we did. I wanted to do it again, mostly because I messed up last time. It was my fault that I basically, the 26%, I read it wrong. I thought it was 28% for some reason, but I made a mistake. So sorry about that. But basically, we're reading a pie chart, and here, excuse me, what we have is this. We're assuming here that some person named Mary had categorized her spending for the entire month into these 4 categories, okay? You know, rent, food, fund, and other. So this is basically saying that 26% of her monthly spendings was towards rent, 16% was towards food, and so on. Now here I did kind of change the example a bit. Namely, what I did here was I said, let's assume now that the rent she spent, you know, her rent was $2,800. I think last time, if I remember correctly, I said that her whole monthly spending for everything was $2,800. So here, though, we're assuming that the monthly rent was $2,800. So in other words, the 26% is the $2,800. We want to know how much spendings does she have for the entire month. That's what we want to know, okay? All right, so how do we do that? Well, to get her spendings for the entire month, we're saying that 26% of it is $2,800, okay? So we want to know what 26% of what is 2,800. That's basically what we're looking for. And this was something from chapter 4, this equation that we're working with, okay? This is something here that we're working with. And this is from chapter 4. This is really what we're going to use to help us. So we're basically saying that 26 out of 100 is equal to part, which is 2,800, over whole. So in the previous example, we said that the whole was 2,800. Here we're saying that part is 2,800. The part here was 2,800, okay? That's what we're saying here. I know also you could have put 0.26 on the left here instead of this fraction, but it's really the same thing. So again, what do? We cross multiply, right? Cross multiplying, we get 26 times x equals 100 times 2,800. And basically here, this is saying that 26 times, so basically solving for x, we divide by 26, and we get this, as you can see. I mean, maybe this will help. This might make it easier. Let me get that red. Here we go. Okay. You know, basically here what we did was we cross multiplied like so. Okay, that's what we did here. And that's how we got 26x on the left, x times 26 on the left, and 2,800 times 100 on the right. But then we want to solve for x, right? X is the amount of spending she has for the month. So we want to solve for x. So we're dividing by 26. As you can see, we're dividing by 26, as you can see, right? Then these are going to cancel, and we get x is equal to this quotient, which turns out to be about $10,769.23. You know, approximately. You know, I had to round it off to 2 decimal places, but you know, that's okay. It happens. All right. Okay. All right, so hopefully that made sense. Are there any questions on that? All right. So let's now consider quantitative data. Before, we were looking at qualitative data, okay? But now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the quantitative data. Remember, that data is the kind of data that, you know, it's numerical and you could do arithmetic calculations on it. For instance, you can get the mean, you can get the average, you can, stuff like that, basically. You can add up the numbers, you know, things like that. It makes sense to do. They basically, each data value represents an amount, is what we're saying. So not all numbers, as we saw, represents quantitative data, you know, like zip codes don't, for instance, or telephone numbers don't. Those are numbers, though. Here, the kind of data, the numeric data, it represents amounts. Now, to represent that, we could use frequency tables, as you'll see. We can also use histograms, which is like a bar graph. The only real difference then is that the horizontal axis, the horizontal line that the bars lay on, that's not going to be categorical data, such as colors or favorite sports, things like that. It's actually going to be the number line. You know, again, the data we're dealing with are numbers. They represent, you know, amounts. And the vertical axis is still going to be frequency, so that's still the same. And this will make more sense when we see a graph, but each bar for on a histogram, remember, it's like a bar chart. On each bar, let me see if I can, actually, I might be able to draw this. You know, if you're on a histogram, right, each bar, use your imagination here, okay? What's going to happen is each bar is, you can actually think of as an interval from A to B, for some numbers A and B, where A is included, but B is not included, okay? That's something you can actually think of. Again, this will make more sense when we see some examples of these graphs. But here, we're actually going to include, so the bar basically represents values bigger than or equal to A and less than B. That's what's going to happen here. Okay. Again, that will make more sense when we do some examples. Now, how do you actually make a histogram? Well, essentially, you're just making a bar chart. Well, excuse me, no, that's not right. Basically, you can make it using Google Sheets. There is actually a feature called a histogram. The only difference well, there's a few differences. The big one is that if you have the data, you have to type in one column. So, you know, you have to type all the data out in one column, which is, I know, really annoying, but that's just how it is. So, I mean, you could make histograms through Desmos, but you have to do the same thing. You have to list all the data. I mean, if there is an easier way to do it, I honestly don't know, but that's okay for now. You'll see also that you can actually change the length of each base of the bars. What you do is you would go to bucket size in the histogram. Google Sheets does have a histogram feature. And of course, you can mess around with the charts, mess around with the titles, excuse me, by clicking on charts and titles. We'll make an example. Again, you have to list the data in a column now. You could also make one using a frequency table, but again, you still have to list the data. So, okay. All right, let me show you how to do this. Let me do an example, actually. Suppose we have this example, okay? We have this frequency table. So these are just scores on, I don't know, an exam or something, let's say, okay? Or something, okay? You know, scores, maybe not an exam or a quiz or something, right? But again, we can list the data, as you can see, through a frequency table. So 2 people got zeros. 1 person got a 5. 1 person got a 12, and so on. 8 people got 18, you know, that kind of stuff. Nobody got a 25, okay? I'll make this histogram shortly. But again, let me say this, though, that each bar is kind of like represents an interval, where here you're including all numbers bigger than or equal to the left endpoint, but strictly less than the right endpoint. You're not including numbers. You're not including the right endpoint, in other words. That's how these bars usually represent. Those are the data values, that is. So technically here, you know, I mean, we have the frequency table, but if you imagine the frequency table wasn't there, or this, and I gave you this histogram chart, right? Here you can imagine this bar representing all date scores greater than or equal to 4, but strictly less than 6. The height of the bar is still the frequency. So in this case, there would be one data value greater than or equal to 4 and less than 6. All right. I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say. You know, again, it's similar to a bar chart, so let me just make this in Google Sheets just to illustrate how to do it. I mean, mostly because I didn't put screenshots in here. So let me get the Google Sheets. Okay, here we go. All right. Well, the data value might be listed. I did list it. All right, good. It makes it easier. All right, let me just stop sharing this. All right. Okay. Here we go. Okay. All right. So here, okay. Oh wait, no, I didn't share that yet. Sorry, shared the wrong thing. Here we go. Here we go. This is what I wanted to share. Okay. Let me just get rid of that. So again, notice how I typed in the data. It's all in one column. From the frequency table in the notes, I did send you the notes so you have it in front of you. So I typed it all into one column. Okay. If you wanted to make it directly from the frequency table, I mean, I don't know if Google Sheets can do that, but you know, again, this is what we're doing here. This is how Google Sheets works, though. You know, we typed it all out in one column. Okay. All right. So then what do? Again, you highlight the data, right? Like so. Just like before, you go to Insert, click there, so you can see what I'm doing. Click on Insert, click Chart. Should come up. I mean, here for chart type, there is histogram. Not sure where it is down here. Oh, here it is under Other. So here's histogram, as you can see. You know, we will click that. This is what we would get. Okay. But again, you can change, you know, the size of these bars, the length of each base, that is. You would go to Customize, go to Chart, and Access Title. Oh, excuse me, you want to go there. Oh, that's right. You would click here, excuse me, for bucket size, you click where it says histogram, sorry about that. Then here you have bucket size, right? Here it's on auto, but you can change it though. So like for instance, if I made each one length 1, this is what we would have. Okay? And this is actually what you get in the slides. Or if you want, you can make it actually 2. See, you could do that also. Basically, by changing bucket size, that's how big the length of each base is, of each bar. There, it's 10, okay, 2, so we have this, okay? But that's how you can do that. You can mess around with bucket size. I mean, you could leave it on auto if you want. As you can see, you would get this. That's fine. But it's really up to you. Okay? All right. That's good. But again, if you want to mess around with the titles, you can click on Chart and Access Titles. We have the title of this thing, which is histogram. Let's see what else. If you click on the arrow here, the title type selector, you can get the horizontal axis title. So you can type in, I don't know, scores. I think that's what I've typed in. And if you click on vertical axis, you can click on frequency. You can type frequency, excuse me. Like so. And we have our histogram. Well, you know, Google Sheets allows you to make it. I mean, again, I don't know. I know there's other statistical software like Minitab. I don't know if you have to type all the data out like this, but again, with Google Sheets, you have to. So, right. Okay, so that's one example. The next example, let me go back to the notes. Like so. Okay, so that's one example. That's one